Hi all, Losty, Punch Out TV. How are you all doing on this Boxing Day evening? Happy Boxing Day to you all. Hope you're all good. I just quickly want to make this video. I was just scrolling through Facebook and seen this post come up on this page on Facebook about Joe Calzaghe and Roy Jones Jr. And it wasn't so much of who was the better fighter. It was to do with saying it was the fastest fight of all time or something because of hand speed. But I read the comments, and it was the comments what got me thinking about making this video, because I've come across this loads of times with people in the boxing community, mainly workmates and stuff like that, you know, who like boxing. But there's always been a debate out there, as far as I'm concerned, especially with like work friends and that, of who was the better fighter of Joe Calzaghe versus Roy Jones Jr. And like I say, I should have screen recorded the comments, because a lot of people were saying Joe would have beat him, a better fighter and all this stuff, and then people saying Hopkins would have wiped the floor with him. But did a little bit of research as I grew up watching both of these fighters, but this isn't based on the opponents who they beat or the achievements, what they achieved. But I did write it down. But I was trying to find, like, for me, because I think that these two fighters were in the prime at different times. And especially as I feel that Joe Calzaghe got better towards the end before he retired, whereas Roy Jones was a better fighter in the earlier days, up until he took the loss against Antonio Tarver. But there was always, I remember watching an interview with Joe Calzaghe years and years ago, when I still lived at home with my mum, so it's like years ago. But I always remember there was an argument thrown out that it was because of the money, i.e. I think it was when they were all sat round the table on Sky Sports. There was loads of them, Collins, Eubanks, Roy Jones Jr., Richie Woodall, Joe Calzaghe himself. I think there was someone else there, but I can't remember who. And it was always, Joe said it was because of the money and stuff like that. They didn't offer him the right money. But like I say, I think they were at the two of them were in different peaks at different stages of their careers. I mean, when you think of the fighters, I wrote some stuff down. He beat Byron Mitchell. That was a great fight. In 2003, beat Charles the Hatchet Brewer. Jeff Lacey to become the IBF champion. He beat Peter Manfredo, Mikael Kessler for the WBA and WBC. Beat Richie Woodall, who was a former WBC champion. And then he beat Robin Reed as well, former world champion. And then he went on to beat Hopkins and Jones, who I think they were finished towards that part of the career. I don't get angry at people who hear me say that, but I don't think Hopkins was that finished, obviously. But Roy Jones Jr. to me was, he'd been in too many wars. Same with Hopkins, but Hopkins just had them ever-ready batteries what just kept going. But then when you look at the people who Roy Jones beat, Bernard Hopkins in 93, when he was in his prime, James Toney in 94, Mike McClellan in 96, but Virgil Earl, Felix Trinidad, Sugarboy Malinga, and other fighters. But Tarver, who beat him the first time, but Jones was only a middleweight fighter, super middleweight. I think I had to write it down. it was 94 to November 96. In November 96, he stepped up to fight Mike McCallum. He was another tremendous world fighter from Jamaica. Yeah, I think he beat Donald Curry, I'm sure he did. But anyway, it was like, I was trying to look at just going off the box recs between them. You know, I think that Joe Calzaghe's best years, I think his peak for me was at 2003 to 2008 till he retired. He probably could have gone on a lot longer, but he threw the towel in undefeated. You know, former undisputed super middleweight world champion, lineal as well. But then Roy Jones Jr. won 7 world titles at 10 attempts. He had 10 attempts at world titles and won 7 in 4 different weight classes. But for me, I keep saying Hopkins. For me, Roy Jones Jr.'s peak was 93 to 2004. He did lose in 97 to Montel Griffin. I think that he got disqualified, but he ran it back and knocked him out. But for me, there's always that thing there, he was the better fighter. Now, me personally, I think, without shadow of a doubt, I think it was Roy Jones Jr. Not taking anything away from Joe Calzaghe. Joe Calzaghe was a tremendous fighter. Definitely him and Lennox Lewis are definitely up there as the best 2 fighters to come out of this side of the pond. But I just think that Joe won his first world title in 95. So by, like I say, in 95, October 95, by November 96, Roy Jones Jr. was fighting at light heavyweight. Well, that was his first fight at light heavyweight. I would have loved to have seen them both fight, but I just think that they both missed each other. That's what I think. Even though Joe was a champion at super middleweight when Roy Jones was, but only for like a year or so, because like I say, by the following year, Roy Jones jumped up to fight McCallum at light heavyweight. So I don't know. You let me know who you think would have won in their prime. Like I say, I have Joe Calzaghe's prime between 2000 and, even though he was unbeaten and he was beating fighters, I don't think he would have beaten the Roy Jones Jr. anywhere between 93 and 04. Maybe I would say 2003. And I have Joe's best career. I think Joe got better in 2003 to 2008. So they sort of like just passed each other. Like I say again, even though they were both super middleweights in 95 and 96. So I don't know. It's for you to tell me who do you think's better. But for me, Roy Jones Jr. has got to go down as one of the greatest fighters of all times. But so Joe Calzaghe, he's got to go down as in the Hall of Fame. You know, 46-0, 32 KOs. He was unbeaten. At the time, I would have liked to have seen him fighting Roy Jones Jr. and Hopkins. Would he have done it? I don't know. We don't know because they never fought. But not taking anything away from any of the fighters, I just think they had different. To wrap this video up, I just think that they had different spells at being their best peak. Like I say, for the last and final time, I had it. Keep saying Hopkins. I had it Jones 93 to 2004, and I had it Joe Calzaghe 2003 to 2008. But it was just a video what I was thinking about. I remember watching the fight and that, but you could clearly see that Roy Jones Jr. to me was finished by then. Even when he fought Felix Trinidad, before he fought Joe Calzaghe, he didn't look that good in that fight. Even though he did win that fight against Felix Trinidad, he was one of my all-time great fighters. But I'd like to say it would have been great to have seen them fight. Two tremendous fighters. But for me, I think Roy Jones Jr. would have beat him if they both were prime at the same time. Anyway, let me know what you think. Peace out, and I'll catch you on the next one.